Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay. So I'm Judy Calogero, and I'm going to open the Glens Falls Industrial Development Agency Board meeting. It's June 13th. It's 8 a.m. and we have a quorum. I am at the same time opening up a public hearing pursuant to Article 18A of the New York State General Municipal Law. This hearing is being held here at the Fitzgerald Morris Baker Law Firm offices at 668 Warren Street in Glens Falls. It is being live streamed on YouTube, and this is to discuss the Spring City Development Group LLC project on South Street. And so we'll get into that second. Let me first just call the meeting, the IDA meeting, and advise the members that what we're going to do today is pass on the administrative reports until the end, and we'll even do some of the project reports at the end. But we'll start with the Market Square update from Jeff Flagg, our CEO, and then we'll move into the public hearing part of the meeting, if that's okay with everyone.
So how do you want to run the public hearing after?
Yeah, I want you to give your project report to the members first.
Sure.
And let me just, for the record, say that Mary Gooden and Tim Larson are absent today, but all other board members are here. Our staff are all here, and we're present. So we're ready to go.
Yeah. Well,
Thank you, Jeff.
the primary reason, the primary focus of this meeting, of course, is to pass some support from the IDA, particularly with respect to tax benefits. This is a project that's been going on for quite some time. In fact, as you know, we originally, these are the documents we'll be reviewing and approving, hopefully, are those that we originally approved just over 2 years ago in April of 2022. The documents we have today are not materially different, other than the numbers have changed for two reasons. One, in the case of the pilot agreement that we've come to, you might recall that the original agreement with Bonaccio, Nee Spring City, I guess I should qualify, was included 4 parcels, 41 South, 45 South, 49 South, and 36 Elm. In the intervening 2 years, through various negotiations, we removed 49 South from the agreement. There are now only 3 parcels. That has led to a commensurate and slight reduction in the value of the pilot.
And that was a property that was owned by the city.
That was and will remain owned by the city, as opposed to the other 2 properties that are owned currently, at least, by the LDC. The other change, simply as a function of the sales and mortgage tax rebate numbers, simply had to be recalculated because the project development cost for this phase 1, what we'll call phase 1, the pertinent properties here, has gone up from around 7.8 million up to just over 9 million, if I'm not mistaken, back like 9.2 million. So obviously the sales tax calculations reflect that, as well as the mortgage tax calculation. Those are the only fundamental changes that we have there, so the formulas all remain the same. Nothing else really has changed there. We're hoping the City Council approved the project development agreement at the council meeting on Tuesday night. That same agreement will be before the LDC board at the commencement of that meeting following this one, at which time we are looking at a closing date of, I believe, early July for the LDC properties. So if we can make all these things happen, and there's really nothing in our way, no externalities in our way, we should be ready to move forward on phase 1 within the next, I would say, 4 to 6 weeks.
One more thing is that the planning board gave architectural review, right?
Yeah, the planning board gave final, they had site plan and now architectural plan review, so they're ready to go at the planning board phase as well.
Thank you.
And I want to mention too, and I know the members all know this, but the updated application, including the sources and uses and all the calculations are in our documents today and posted on our website. And so those documents are there both for the public and for all of us. And we've had that now for several days to review. So let me ask the members if you have any questions for Jeff at this point related to this. Okay. And so we're joined here by the developers, and I'm not going to have you come in until we go into the public hearing, if that's okay, unless the members have questions for you. Okay. All right. So that's the project update. Yes, we've been dealing with this for quite some time, so the members here have been very well aware of it and knew these changes were coming. So I just want to repeat that for the record. I want to check with our counsel, Kara Leas. Do you want to have anything added before we go back to public hearing?
No, I don't think there's anything there at this
Okay.
point.
All right. And Kara has reviewed the documents as well as staff, so there has been extensive reviews done as well as by me. Okay, so back to the public hearing. Jeff's report will be included as part of the public hearing. And Larry Novak is here today representing Spring City Development. And Larry, I'd like to ask you to just say a few words about the project and anything that you want to add to what Jeff said.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you, everybody. Thank you for just continued support through what has been a very long and one of the more complex efforts of my career, with a little pandemic coming in the middle. This actually started for me more like 6 years ago, 7 years ago, when the idea was first hatched. We've obviously had some interesting challenges, but the constellation of support that has come through, most recently from Glens Falls National, it's really been a pleasure to work with them, has been great. We are, as Jeff said, very close to the end of the road. The final step in the process, we ordered the appraisal for the project the day that we finished negotiating the term sheet. And we should have that. One of the final steps was actually to tour the appraiser through the property, and that happened yesterday. We did that in person. And we are hoping to receive that. Is that next week, Amber?
Yes.
Yeah, so next week, and then we will be on the first loan committee meeting that they can get us on. And I think that that's going to align with the schedule that you mentioned within, hopefully, a few weeks anyway. So we are excited to actually stop talking about this and start building it.
And we are as well, so yes, thank you.
And so the financing is coming from lender financing, both in terms of construction and perm financing, and there's DRI financing from the city that are being contributed. There had been some conversation that there might be historic tax credits.
There are.
And there are.
Yes.
And so is the investor of that also the bank?
It is.
Okay.
The bank is acting in a dual role. They are the investor under the historic, in other words, they're purchasing the syndicated tax credits, and they are also the lender on the debt side.
And the tax credits are basically for 36 Elm, not all the properties, or are all the properties considered historic?
All the properties are considered historic.
Okay.
That was actually one of the delays on our side, was working, the state has been actually very expedient. The federal government, it never is quite as quick. We have to work through the National Park Service project, so that's been, slow.
So you have both federal and state historic tax credits?
The two programs are coupled in New York State, so you can't receive state tax credits without the federal program approving it.
Yeah. Although I think it's probably fair to say that many of the delays were related to 36 Elm as opposed to the other two buildings.
Yeah, I think that's probably accurate.
I mean, I suppose
It wasn't anything, that Amber and I haven't seen as, normal. It just takes a long time. You argue about floor finishes and ceiling materials, and it's a lot of back and forth.
Yep. Windows.
Windows, always windows.
Always windows.
if you've been in the building anytime in the last year or two, you'd be amazed at what they're hoping to get salvaged from that building for reuse. I'll be duly impressed when you do.
Always an interesting process.
Okay.
So when we were at the bank, oh geez, I don't know now, a few weeks ago, touring their new facilities, and they were looking out over what would be their view. We talked to them, I'm glad that they did come through and that this all worked out the way it did. When you have that bank meeting, would you let me know? I'd love to come and be a fly on the wall and sit and quietly.
That's actually, I don't think that's a public meeting, Mayor.
Oh, okay.
You can ask them, but it's
All right.
their loan committee meeting.
Yeah.
So before they go from term sheet to final commitment, they have an
They
internal
have an
review
internal-
meeting.
Fair enough.
That's the last step.
Great. See if I can get a special invite.
Probably can.
In terms of the architectural review that you went through, I don't think any of us were present for that meeting. How did that go?
It went fine. Our architect led it, and I don't think it was anything that hasn't been shown a few times already, so there were no big surprises.
No big changes there either from that review. Very good. So let's go to the members first. Any board members have any questions for Larry and or for Jeff? Okay, let me open it up to the public. Is anyone here from the public have questions for the developer or for Jeff or for me? Any comments? Okay.
Go
So-
team.
What?
Go team.
Peter, can people, I don't know if they can interact online or not.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Peter, do we have anybody online?
No.
Great.
Okay. So, again, the full application is online. Suzanne has a copy of it here today as well. If anyone needs to see that, that is available, including the amendments and the sources and uses report. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the public hearing open for a little bit here in case someone comes and has questions. And we'll go back to the regular board meeting and go through some of the other items, all right? So we'll try not to keep you here too late, but it's only been 13 minutes, so I don't wanna close it yet. Okay. So administrative reports, I do not have a CEO report. I'm sorry, I don't have a chair report. Do you have a CEO report besides what you've
No,
already
I think when we
reported?
get to other business, I have one item I'd like to talk about. We can work through everything else first if you like.
Okay, so we have two minutes. We had a regular meeting on May 9th and the special meeting we held on May 23rd. All members have copies of those minutes. Are there any questions, changes? There being none, is there a motion to approve
So
the
moved.
May 9th and May 23rd minutes? Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? There being none, the motion is passed, the minutes are approved. Financial report for 5 months ending May 31. Mr. Toomey, anything you'd like to add?
Just the audit for $1,200, accounting expense from Woodmore for $240, two Fitzgerald bills for $384, and 40% of the payroll for March and April hours for $1,051.
Any questions for Mark? There being none, is there a motion to approve the financial report as presented?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays, any abstentions? There being none, the financial report is approved and can get posted. Thank you. We have one bill to pay, Schedule A, 40% of May services for Mark, $260.40. Is there a motion to approve payment of bills?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? There being none, motion is approved. Bills will pay. I guess I'll sign that.
Yeah.
Any other reports, administrative reports, Jeff?
No.
Okay. So,
Other business schedule.
any other business? Yeah,
Well, when you get down to other business, I'll open it.
yeah,
Just trying to follow our.
administrative. Okay, so, do you want to do updates on Market Center?
Yeah, why don't we, I'll table any comments about Market Square, Market Center until we get to the LDC meeting. But I would like to introduce a young man from, about the Union Square property. Amber, would you mind switching out for
Sure,
just a second so we can have, as you may know, Union Square, Tom O'Neill's property, has been for sale for a while. He's sort of divesting himself of his properties. Union Square is a property that has been rehabilitated substantially, but still has about, I would say about 40% of it really is still undeveloped. If you know that building well, it's sort of like a V-shaped building. The front part houses a number of businesses, including, I think, AJ Architecture, with whom this body does some work. The back side of it is some offices, and then 2 floors of undeveloped space. Ryan Connor here, excuse me, again, runs EBRM Properties. I think that's the right order of those letters.
Got it,
And Ryan owns a number of properties, particularly on Glen Street, I believe.
Yep.
Owns and manages a number of properties, some of the big multifamily, I think even mixed use in a couple cases, buildings.
One mixed use.
Yeah, buildings on Glen Street, and has been in negotiation with Tom, or his assigns, about that property. To that end, Ryan approached me about a few weeks ago, I think, and was looking, if they were able to acquire the property. I know there's an interest in updating or renovating or filling out the remainder of that property. It's a big property. There's some potential for, I believe, mostly residential, what you're looking at adding, but obviously there could be some renovations to some of the commercial spaces as well. So I just wanted, in anticipation of an application perhaps to the IDA for some support for the construction project, I wanted Brian to just come in a little bit, maybe tell a little bit about himself and maybe a little bit more about the project and what your interest is.
Yeah, no, I mean, Ryan Connor, I'm a Glens Falls local, grew up here my whole life. My wife and I, we've been in renovating houses in the area for now 10, 15 years. I guess it's been probably 13 years we've been doing it. So we've worked our way through all the houses we have. We've been looking for our next project, right? We landed on this one. We're sizing it up right now. As was stated, it's, I think the property is, it's at least 40% vacant. We would target development on the top 2 stories on the Elm Street wing, which are wide open space at the moment. It's a 4-story building. We would maintain commercial on stories 1 and 2. In fact, we would look to likely improve story 1, which is I think they call it like it's slightly underground, but fully with ceilings. We would look to improve that space and make it a little bit more usable. But then we would do the build out of apartment units on the top 2. It's enough space for, we believe, 18 comfortable units. Okay. Our approach is we do it methodically. I think we're here because it would help us size up our project and help with project approach, but we do incremental improvements, what we've done for years, so it's how our approach would be.
It's a beautiful building, isn't it?
It's a nice building. It's got good bones.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. They haven't been in there since they shot most of the movie Radium in there and used the office space.
Right. Yeah.
It's a cool place.
Yeah.
Ryan, I don't know if we talked about this, but I've talked to a couple other people, including Tom, about the prospective use of the basement for anything. Did you guys look at that at all?
Well, that's what.
Is the basement, I think the basement is it a 4-story, including that subgrade?
Yeah.
Okay.
The basement's
So you've got the
story
first
1.
floor right now, let's call it the first floor, which is the one that's
It's
slightly
half
above grade
yeah.
on the back, is offices. Even if they're not particularly, I don't
Yeah.
think they're full right now, but anyway, there's office space,
Yeah.
it's finished. And of course, you're looking at the 2 above that.
Right.
Downstairs is a pretty good size basement there. Is that anything that you would?
You're calling that floor 1, right?
Floor 1. When you walk in the building, they call it floor 1. I mean, I think we could debate
1/2?
whatever you want. Yeah, it's like half and 1.5, right? As you go up, but it's it's like you go down 5 steps and you're in the floor 1. We would. That's where I was saying, like, we would focus on cleaning up that space for commercial use. It's right now. It's got, I would describe it as it's got a lot of some storage in it, but we would look at relaying it out and making it more usable. It's probably about, if I was to guess, 4,000 square feet of available space.
Right.
down
I
there.
know that's also what's called an interesting building in the sense that it is in two zones, right?
Yep.
Two development zones. I
Yep.
think it's GC1 in part of it, and I want to say CCD in the other, but I don't remember.
GC2?
GC2?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's some slightly different uses.
Really?
Yeah, the building is cut in half by the zone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cut in half.
No need
That's-
to update that.
I was looking, I mean, I was going through the history myself, and that used to be more than one parcel, but so I'm thinking maybe that has something to do with it,
They merged.
but yeah, our focus, if you're looking at those halves, and I know like the code says like you consider both, but they're in the GC2, like they're in everything's in the Elm Street wing
Okay.
that we're looking to do. The Broad Street end of the building, we would look to maintain and
Yeah.
keep going as it is.
Is there an elevator?
It's an elevator, it sits kind of between the two wings. It sits on the back side of the Broad Street section.
Okay.
We would connect, it's already connected on the top floor. We would ensure there's access to it on all floors.
Do you have to?
And you're saying Elm Street, you mean Pine Street?
I'm sorry, Pine
Thank you,
Street.
right, all this time, right.
Yeah,
I
Elm goes.
am just the same time sitting here, I'm trying.
Yeah.
How,
I'm sorry,
how
I
is
could
that
do-
possible? Right, does it go all the way back there?
Wrong street.
We knew it.
Yeah.
Mine that runs by Iron Gate right there.
Yeah, up through there, yeah.
Bread baking,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's actually a lot off, there's a
Yeah.
couple of parking lots around the building. There's actually, I think it's 10 spaces off the back there too.
When you know that, the moment you could finish those apartments, they'll be full before you fill them, right? I mean, you can't swing a stick and not hit that opportunity, so that's good. And please come and let us know when you got some more
Yeah.
plans. Thank you.
And go ahead. Jim.
What size units do you think? Ones, twos,
One,
apartments?
predominantly one bedroom units.
Okay,
Just our strategy, wouldn't want to make them obviously try to force in two, so we would go predominantly one bedrooms. The layout that I've drawn up so far, it does have some extra space where I think we would make a few 2 bedrooms
okay.
out of it, but predominantly I would call it, 85% 1 bedroom units.
Do you have any sense yet, a general sense of what you think your total cost is, both acquisition and construction?
I have probably a decent sense of it, to be honest. I've been sizing that up.
Okay.
So yeah, we have alignment on purchase, and which for that we're looking at 1.665 is what we're at.
Okay,
Okay, and then for us, and it's also part of I think why I presented here, we would do it in phases. Our ability would be limited by our funds, right, through the
Sure.
phases. So we would approach it in 2 phases. Phase 1 would start with 6 units. That's what we would do. We would bring the property to like a performing state there and then go from there. Okay. We're looking at in the neighborhood of $60,000 per unit. There's a lot of good bones in there, but there's also there's nothing within its open space. So we gotta
yeah.
create it all.
Bring everything in and, create
No
everything.
utilities? There's
No, no divided utilities. We
Right.
would have to, right?
Right, all that
So
stuff.
all that, yeah.
Okay.
Jim Siplon, I think Jamie.
We met with Ryan the other day,
Yeah.
and first of all, the plan looks really good. We've arranged for HCR to have a special session with him because there are some programs that they've recently launched that could potentially be uniquely viable to him. And with that, there may be funds that go beyond what he could otherwise get. So I think there's still some opportunity to consider going, even bigger or faster. And we're also talking to him about potential uses of that same space you're talking about in that subfloor, knowing how proximate it is to some of the development that you have here.
Yeah.
Well, as you know, and I think we talked a little bit about this, we're trying to see if we can sort of put together a portfolio of support, to make this project work.
Nice.
Obviously one of the keys of our redevelopment of downtown is making the best use of existing spaces, but especially ones that have sort of historic and aesthetic value, at least this, and proximity value. So
It's in our BOA, right?
yeah, yes, it is. It's in the South.
It's in the ball, yep.
So and that's another area. National Grid has programs that we might be able to look at with you. So, you know, and of course, the IDA is, you know, an agency that exists for when you know, when the numbers don't quite work and you need some additional, you know, boost. It's an invaluable resource to make projects that don't pencil over the long term anyway. And it sort of requires that kind of long-term investment on your part, but it also is a commitment from the city indirectly on ours. So we'll circle back to you once you
Might be
get-
our first actual project within the BOA, the newly approved BOA, right?
Since the
State?
Since the
well,
designation?
Well, second.
Well, right, yeah.
Well, yeah, you're starting before we even were done with the application for the BOA. Sorry,
Yeah.
anyway.
Right.
Nice.
So, you know, very close to each other, all, you know, sort of in the periphery of the market center. So it's great. We're optimistic, and obviously we'll do what we can to help if it's needed.
So
Thank you.
no application yet, but you've got the form, I'm sure, and Jeff can help
Yeah,
you
we'll go
with
over
that
some.
and those details.
Yeah, we'll go over some
Yep.
details.
Very good, all right.
Thank you.
Excellent
Thanks, Ron.
question,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, thanks, Ryan. Okay. Any other project reports,
No.
Jeff? Okay. Any other business? So, there being none, I think what I'm going to do is just double check and see if there's any questions for the Spring City team before we close out that meeting.
Peter,
Anything?
online?
Peter? Nothing? Very good. Anything? Nothing? Okay. So, close out the public hearing officially. So it's
8:27.
8:27. And thank you
Not
very
that we
much,
count.
guys. And
time.
we'll take care of documents and get back to you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Good to see you all.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
There's no other business to come before the.
No, we have to
Thanks for
approve the
letting us
resolution.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
we're
sorry.
glad we were able to-
Right.
We're glad it's away.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
If you want me to go through some of the changes I can for.
Yes. Yes.
Take care, guys.
So, in our documents, do we have we do have the
Right, yep,
resolution?
we do.
So, let's pull that resolution up, guys, and Kara, just go through those changes, if you will, for the record.
Sure. So the resolution really mirrors the resolution we previously adopted in July of 2022.
It's
But,
after the
and kind of goes
Yeah,
through
yeah.
the first, all the whereas clauses are kind of get us where we are today. The hearings we've had to date, the approvals that have been done, and now, you know, why we're amending this due to, you know, really some modifications of the project as well as just time that has increased some of the project costs. So the changes are that we've removed 49 South Street from the project.
49, was that just adjacent to
It
it?
was just
Yes.
the lot.
Now, is that the lot that we're gonna have public access, even though
Correct.
somebody may want to use it for tables or something?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
The old
It's a
juice
park.
and jar.
Yeah.
The
That's a
old
park.
juice and
That
jar
little
lot.
lot.
And it's also gonna be used for the
Farmers market, right.
too.
Right, but whatever entities in the old Hot Shots building is not gonna have exclusive use of
Correct.
that.
That's right.
Use but not exclusive use.
Right.
Yeah.
So that parcel was removed. There were some modifications in the square footage that varied slightly from the original application. And then we made a modification to the determination that this project will promote employment opportunities and prevent economic development in the area. Prevent economic deterioration in the area.
That's really what we're here for.
I need new readers, I guess. In this section, we modified, I'm sorry, that's in the next section, but we did modify in here to indicate that 36 Elm was listed on the historic site. So that was a change from the original. And then there were some changes to the project cost. The overall cost was increased to 9.2 million and change. Previously it was a little over 7 million, so there was some change there. The sales tax increased slightly, so that exemption is $166,000, $166,010. And the mortgage tax exemption actually decreased because of the financing process that they are following. So that mortgage tax exemption is $56,800. The pilot schedule was also modified due to the 49 South Street parcel coming out. So it shows in section 5.
Page 6.
Yeah, the pilot schedule, so there'll be a flat pilot in years 1 through 8 at $18,735, and then it'll increase every year after that for the remaining years 9 through 15. And everything else stayed the same as far as the information regarding the seeker that was already approved by the city in October of 2022 that we've adopted previously as our own. So we're just ratifying that, and there were no other changes.
And just a reminder that 2 of the 3 parcels have been not, there's been no tax being paid on them because they've been LDC owned and controlled properties, and prior to that, I think EDC owned 36L, or another entity that had been related to EDC. So the tax is actually going up even though there's a pilot because of that. Okay.
18,000 more than zero.
Right, yeah.
It's a good jump.
Yep, exactly. In year 15, 123,000.
Right.
Okay. So, again, we had Spring City do a complete new application and update all of those numbers for us, and that is there as well. So, any questions from the members? All right, there being none, is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? There being none, the resolution is approved and passed, and we will move towards closing and notify all the members as soon as closing occurs. Okay.
Who's bringing the champagne to the closing?
Jeffrey.
Yeah.
It's only
I knew
been,
you'd get on board
it's,
with this.
it's actually been
Let's wait till
18 months in the making, so. Okay. Any other business, members? Jeff, there being none? So our next meeting is scheduled for July 11th. Now, we typically don't have a meeting in August, but I want to just make sure July, we'll still meet then in July. Okay? All right, so motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
All right.
We are adjourned. Mayor, I turn it over to you. Thank you.
All right. Well, good morning and welcome to the Greater Glens Falls Local Development Corporation. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We have a quorum. We'll start with administrative, any public comment, Peter, online? Okay. No? So, administrative reports. First up, the LDC are the minutes from the May 9th and special meeting held on May 23rd in your packet. In that, does anybody have any questions about the regular meeting minutes or the special meeting minutes? Not hearing any. Do we have a motion to approve the two sets of minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions or nays? Thank you. Next would be our financial report for 5 months ending May 31st. Update from Mark.
Transferring the $10,000 from the incubator account, 2 legal bills, 384 and 496, 2 female bills for 1,200, typical insurance bill for 1,200, 60% of payroll, $1,576, and the annual Queensbury taxes for $8,500.
Very good. Any questions or comments from Mark? If not, we have a motion to approve the financial report.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And then transfer of money, Mark, 65 from the marketing account to our operating.
We need to We have a motion to approve that, I
To
assume?
approve it, I'm sorry, there we go. We need a
Right.
motion to, any questions about it? If not, we have a resolution to authorize the transfer of funds from the marketing account to the operating account to ensure our operating funding through 2024.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Payment of bills. Mark?
You want me to, I can read it for you,
Yeah, you
Mark?
want me to do it, Mark?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so-
Okay. Fitzgerald Morris, one bill for 192, 60% of non-paid hours for 390. The typical insurance again for 1282. Chubb insurance for employee fraud protection, 1,772. A small Mannix bill for $25, and the final payment for Bonadio for the 23 audit, $7,800. Total $11,462.
Very good. Any questions about our bills? Not hearing any questions. Do we have a motion to approve the payments of the bills?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Glad we have protection from your fraud, is all I have to say.
That's right. Glad we have protection
Our sole
from fraud.
employee.
Very good. Any other reports? I don't see any.
I don't have anything specific now.
Projects, Market Center, Market Square updates from Jeff?
Yeah, do we not have the PDA in here? Is that?
Was it approved last month?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, thank you. I was thinking of the council here. So, little update, I assume you've probably all gone by the South Street project,
Last
which is
night.
moving apace, is that?
Last night.
Yeah, and how did it look?
On
Very
her-
nice.
On her daily constitutional.
Yes, so that's moving on schedule.
Is anything above
We're
ground yet?
looking right now
No.
at early fall, late summer, early fall for the completion of that. The real challenge we have now is trying to sort of juggle, there's really 3 different projects on this same property. There's, of course, the Bonaccio project that they're just getting started on, as we know. There's the Market Center, which is well underway. And then there's the Pocket Park, the DOS project in between there.
And Elm Street construction.
And the South Street,
Or Elm.
the South and Elm streetscaping project. The streetscaping project, by the way, is slated to be done by late summer, so.
That would be
I was
good.
talking to Jeremy.
That would be like really, really good.
Yeah, I was talking to Jeremy, it doesn't look as done as it is because they're doing a lot of underground work for the stormwater separation, which is not being DRI funded, by the way, but it made sense to do it while we were doing this.
Once you have the road open.
So, despite my anxieties, Jeremy Schneibel told me just last week that he said he's looking still at late July completion of that project. As you, I think, know, the one problem deadline we're running up against is DOS's deadline of September 30th for their pieces of the project. So the streetscaping is one part of that. The Pocket Park is the other. We're working with DOS right now to see how we can sort of work through those deadlines. The challenge, of course, that I guess everyone was intuitively aware of, but maybe not explicitly, was that the Pocket Park, almost by definition, is sort of the last thing to get finished. And so, while the Market Center and Market Square projects, ESD projects, don't have explicit deadlines, we're still working against the one with DOS. So I think there's a couple of different possible paths forward that we're working through. I think we'll choose the most expedient when we get there. But
Who's their DOS contact now?
Leslie Zlatev is the project manager,
Okay.
who's been very helpful. I have to say, and I was down at I had to step in for the mayor at an event, a DRI event down in Schenectady, not quite a month ago. I think it was when you had COVID, if I remember right.
Sure.
And so, I had a chance to talk to some of the other folks who are doing DRI projects, including Schenectady and a couple of smaller towns. And, universally, I think, the agencies are very helpful. I mean, they're up against some of the same challenges that we are, budgetarily, scheduling, political pressures, but they've been extraordinarily helpful in trying to work us through this. given the time frame. So I think the fact that we're moving forward works enormously in our favor, right? There's so many different projects that are all sort of coming together. As I mentioned to the mayor in sort of in passing in a conversation with someone else, you know, the DRI on South Street for us, I think, you know, everyone envisioned it to be like something you were going to bake, where you just throw all the ingredients in and somebody goes in the oven and all comes out, everything's finished. It's really more like cooking, where you add an ingredient here, an ingredient here, and now you put this in, and this takes a little bit longer, and that cooks real quickly. You know, and finally get done, you have a wonderful meal, and maybe more nutritious, but you know, it still doesn't come out quite as simply as the cake out of the oven. So, you know, it's complicated a little bit by the fact, you know, like you have these different agencies that have different requirements and schedules, but I think we have a path forward here. So I'm optimistic.
Who is doing our development for the park, the Pocket Park?
When you say the development,
Yeah.
the way this was set up is that Envision, the architects,
Yep.
the landscape architects, they have CLA Site, was a subcontractor for the site anyway. They're actually doing the
Okay.
design work. And then we had an allowance left, because we had to have a separate budget, we have an allowance in the contractor, the Bunkoff Constructions, the GC for the Market Center.
Right.
They also included in their bid, as everybody did, an allowance for X amount of dollars. I think it was $425, I believe was the number, out of the $500,000 grant for that work.
Okay.
So the design work is largely done. We got a few little minor things to look at. You know, the project won't take very long. I was talking to the Bunkoff people just
not that
recently.
big.
It's all about that you can't do. We can even work without respect to what Panaccio's doing, right? There's a little bit that they might have to do on the side of the building there, but that's not going to impact us. The fact of the matter is, though, it's the last thing you're sort of going to do as you're finishing up the Market Center. So the Market Center looks like to be sort of on that schedule for late September. But then you say, well, is the Pocket Park itself going to be finished by September 30th? And I think finished in their mind means don't submit anything for repayment by September,
Right, after September,
30th.
right.
So I think the real challenge for us right now is that we're so close to that, you know, without knowing how much of an administrative hassle it is to try and extend that even a few months, do you say, well, we really only need about a month? You know, you go, you know, you're so close. Is there a way we could sort of work around that? So, as I say, they're trying to work with us. So I'm not, you know, nobody's working against each other. We're just all working against various sort of.
None of the issues that we ran into with utilities and moving lines and whatever affect the park?
Well, they affected the entire project.
Right.
And yeah,
But
they're,
the park per se?
yeah, no,
Okay.
no. I mean,
Okay.
they understand.
Right.
Yeah, the utility issue was an enormous one. I mean, without going too far in the weeds here, the biggest problem we've had with utilities was the stormwater. You know, we originally were going to tie to the city stormwater system. When we went out to the street and sort of preliminary digging, there's a huge duct bank in South Street, in South Street, that precluded us from having any drainage into the stormwater system. So we had to redesign it to do all the stormwater retention on site.
On site.
And are we doing that at the park?
No, we don't need to at the park. Park's
Okay.
such a small
Yeah.
area.
Right, I was just trying to think of where our hiccups are gonna be. Okay.
It's not a separate system, so.
Cool.
So has it
Fine.
directly affected it?
No.
No, but it certainly
It's all-
has
right,
affected
and right.
everything,
Right,
right?
anything that pushes the Market Center back inherently pushes the.
Understood, but it's not gonna be a cost item,
No.
we're not gonna run into any
No.
late presented bills, is
No.
what I'm saying, okay.
Well, no, we
As far as
got a
we know.
late presented bill, we had to change that order for Market Center.
Right.
Absolutely, right?
Right,
You're-
right.
You're all of a sudden putting stormwater on the site as opposed to a pipe that runs to your city stormwater, which
Yeah.
was
Right.
impossible to do.
I would like to say too, you know, for the record, that both Envision and AJA, who's our owner's representative, have been very good about holding the contractors to timelines and budgets,
Okay.
you know, where possible. And so, you know, we really still are budget, I mean, looking out at the budget, we're not, you know, I haven't had any, oh my
Budget
God,
friendly.
minutes yet. You know, even when we've had problems, you know, there's been, you know, we've been able to find savings here, or, you know, there's a substitute here, and where they might just say, well, it's gonna cost extra, you know, Andy Allison in particular has been like, well, wait, what about this cost then? We don't have that anymore. And, you know, they don't always volunteer that, nothing against the contractor, but, you know, I don't think it's their job to say, well, you know, we don't
Right.
have this cost. It's our job, and so he's been great for that. So all these projects are still, you know, there haven't been any massive budget surprises, but they're time.
Right, but I just, September is possible then.
September is
Possible.
possible.
Possible for the
Okay, that's all, right.
And it possible for what? Possible for the work getting done? Yes. Possible for all the bills being submitted? Probably not. But, you know, it's funny, I saw the governor and spoke to her on Saturday in Saratoga. And I gave her an update.
What was
She
going
was
on
very
in
pleased.
Saratoga?
I don't know.
What a surprise.
Somebody thought how crazy it was to bring horses to Saratoga in
June.
Yeah. So anyway, it was great, and she and I said, you know, there's these other pressures, and she chuckled. That was her.
There are always pressure.
Yeah.
No,
She was happy to hear of the great progress, right? And so.
well, everybody's working toward the same end, so I'm comfortable there.
Okay, didn't mean to send you off track.
No,
that's
there you go.
That's not hard, actually.
Let's see. How about Market Square? Jeff, do you want to at least mention the 2 meetings?
Yeah, I mean, you might actually want to weigh in on this too, but you know, the mayor has sort of headed up a group of public, not public officials, of public participants,
Yeah.
business leaders and other leaders, civic leaders, to look at the operational prospects of Market Square, right? When I say Market Square, in this context, I'm talking about the first floor of the incubator. That the city and its assigns will be sort of taking over the lease as part of the project development agreement with Bonaccio. Obviously, that becomes a larger complex, and the real challenge now is to try and figure out the way to most efficiently and most effectively operate that facility. Right? You know, the city obviously is not looking to get into the market operation business, but we need to make sure that there's what I would call sort of guardrails to make sure that this is a community-focused facility. I know the last meeting, Denise, I think you were even there, so I know some of the board members here have been to, we've had now 2 meetings. Mayor is trying to coordinate some subcommittees, that's what we would call them.
Yeah, there's subcommittees, right, which have been scheduled, I believe, for next week that you should have been invited to.
We've been all
right?
invited.
Okay.
We got
Right, and the goal of that is to have the four topics with people who are interested, very interested, going to the one that they're very interested in, but we've also made sure that the invitation is open for people to go to any one of them, that anyone or all of them.
Right,
to
if you
participate.
really needed us to be at something, I was looking at this and I thought the general management and finance would be the one that you'd more likely need us at, and not maybe the others.
I agree with this. I'm going to that one. I think
Okay.
that's important that
To go to that one, okay.
Yeah.
you need something to oversee the other 3 I mean,
Yeah.
you got a
Correct.
hierarchy going on
Correct.
there.
Correct.
Yeah.
No, I agreed. Those would be the more need, and remember, they're going to be ongoing meetings. So even if you can't catch one, we'll just keep scheduling them because we need to move forward. We need to get now Taste of New York back in the room, right? We need to get probably New York Ags and Market together with the Department of Health, because of each of these places going to have a mountain of needs that we're not aware of, that we wouldn't be aware. You wouldn't be aware unless you ran a market or a commercial kitchen. So anyway, lots of meetings, lots of learning about what we have in front of us, the details now. So it's a great, exciting time for us. We'll move this project forward, and we've got ourselves a year, which means next week.
Right, exactly,
For our
right.
city government.
Because tomorrow is Christmas,
Yeah,
right?
that's it.
Right.
Yeah, so.
Just one other quick thing is that related to this is when I think of Market Square, I sort of think of the Market Center and the 2 buildings next to it. And the reason I think of the 2 buildings is because one of the things that both we and Bonaccio have been interested in is finding for the hotshot space at 45 South, a restaurateur who would be sort of in keeping with right, the vibe, if you will, of those, of both Market Center and the farmer's market and other things we might do there, along with what market, market in the incubator will become. Sort of a local regional market, if we can find a restaurateur. And I've been talking to a few who are very interested in sort of getting a space where you have like a farm-to-table restaurant or something that really highlights and utilizes the other two facilities. I think it would be a great sort of symbiotic trio.
Great. Thank you. And I believe that is flight equipment settlement.
Right.
Pat, you want to speak about
Well,
that?
actually, I'm happy to have you do it.
Well, I can give you the background here. Karen probably knows a little bit more about this in depth than I do. But so as you know, Flight closed several months ago. They have two different outstanding obligations to the LDC. One is a GF Drive loan that is in the process of being forgiven, but still has, I believe, about 3 years left on it. So we call that around $36,000 or so in obligation, since they're no longer operating. The second is a USDA loan that was for a walk-in cooler that's in the basement of the building that they were using. Once they closed, we needed to figure out how the LDC would be made whole on these. One of our approaches was to see if there was something similar to what we've done in a couple other situations, most notably with someone like Abby's Cookies, where we transferred the obligation from previous owner to next owner. In this case, it's slightly different in the sense that we're not looking to transfer the obligation to another restaurateur, since there isn't one exactly explicitly right now, but to the landlord, the owner of the building, Mike Cadiz himself, or Cadiz Properties.
Which actually makes more sense.
Sure, yeah, in that sense, though, you have the equipment stays there regardless of who's there, since he owns the building. So I don't know if you want to just provide a little bit of embellishment on that, but I know that there's been discussion between Kara and...
Right, so there's been a settlement reached between the landlord and the restaurant owner of Flight. That settlement agreement is confidential, with the exception that we know the landlord is willing to pay the USDA loan and accept the assignment of the GF Drive loan, and will make that equipment and obviously the improvements available to any future tenant there for the balance of the term. So the other portions of that settlement we're not privy to.
Is it possible to restrict this agreement so that the landlord cannot further assign or approach us to further assign the loan to a tenant?
Well, it says that, our agreement says that they'll be bound by the same terms, so if they would have to come back to us.
Understood. I just, I think it's great. But I thought initially that perhaps we were just going to get paid out, which I thought was even greater.
Yeah, there's two. There's two components.
Yeah, there's two pieces.
There's two pieces. We're getting paid off on the
USDA, which we have, because otherwise we have to pay it, so that's good.
In a lump sum or
In a lump sum, okay. But then our loan, our grant loan is going to continue?
Our grant loan will continue under the same terms. So if they assume the same agreement.
Understood.
So if they were going to sell that equipment or assign it to someone else, they'd have to come back to us and you would have to approve it again.
Right. There's 3 years left on the forgivable loan.
Right.
So in a sense, you could...
The USDA is going to be paid
Paid
off.
out.
And that is
Awesome.
Okay.
Right, that's awesome.
Right.
But I just
Well,
sort
you
of
could-
thought I'd like to keep Mr. Cadiz in business with us rather than a future tenant, if that was
Right.
possible. Not to,
Right. Well,
just
you-
to make it not assignable,
You
not
could
reassignable,
do that by simply refusing to
Understood,
allow a
Right.
future assignment.
right. Just was,
But
just
is
was
it
asking.
just the same as we can deny it down the line?
Sure.
Yeah.
Because if you put it in, you can't reassign it, then it might sour them on the rest of the
It's only
deal.
3 more years, right?
Yeah.
It's only 3 more years, is all I'm saying. But it was just a
But you're also
question.
handcuffing this agency unnecessarily, right? I mean, if you did that, you'd foreclose on your option of acting in the future.
Well, what I was thinking is that a new restaurant could then come to us for its own improvement. We wouldn't be foreclosed from being in business with a new restaurant.
Except that this particular grant fund is gone. the
Right,
funding.
well, I
side.
guess you're
There is
right.
no-
Right, there is no more money.
If we were to reclaim the funds, they would
Right.
simply have to be returned to the state.
Correct,
Right.
correct.
So it's not as
There you
if
go.
we have another.
Yeah,
option.
okay, good enough.
And at the July meeting, could you guys give us an update specifically on the USDA on where we are?
Sure,
Because
sure.
I
Absolutely. Yep.
I know that, the Samantha's, non-payment put us in a little bit of a hole.
Right.
So I'm wondering if the interest we've earned, from these other loans and repayments is gonna help us.
So the short answer is, I believe that there will not be a problem paying off USDA in 2038 or whatever it is.
Yeah, okay.
We'll confirm that and get back to you at the next meeting. right?
Because we've talked about, I think, taking that pot of money and putting
Yes.
it into more higher interest.
And the
rate
short
account.
answer is, I wasn't gonna do anything until we got
Until we
this
got-
up.
right,
and
so
pay
in
them
this-
back.
So in the
Yeah.
July meeting, I anticipate we'll also bring a resolution asking to pull
Okay.
some of that out and invest it the way the
Yeah,
idea
to your
is.
question, yes. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah.
assuming this all concludes the way we expect it to conclude, there will be interest payments that will have been made, that will have at least
They
marginally.
covered
part of it.
that, cause I think it was like a $18,000 or $20,000 loss.
Yeah,
or-
they didn't make that up.
Correct,
Okay.
yeah. I believe, as I said, I believe that
Right.
we are
See.
not in trouble
Right.
of owing more than we have. So
Okay.
let me put it that way. And I will, as I said, I'll give you an update in
Thank
the
you.
the July
Okay.
meeting,
Thank you.
right?
Let's see. Oh,
Do you want to do adopt the resolution to
Yes,
accept
yes,
that
please.
assignment?
So, resolution to adopt the assignment, equipment settlement?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Thank you very much. I don't believe we have.
We have one more other business. Yep.
Go ahead.
We're going to invite Kyle Brock from Crew Coffee to come up and join us at the table. They have some, he didn't bring any coffee unfortunately today,
Right.
but he has a discussion about one of the parcels on Tech Meadows that he wants to present to us, Jeff. I don't
Yeah,
know if you wanna
and
add-
Jim Ciplano's here, has been in discussions, as you guys know. EDC has been charged with at least partially marketing Tech Meadows for us. We've had a lot of discussions over the last several years with different entities. And Jim, you're welcome to come on up if you like to sit up here as well, since you're more intimately involved in some of these things. But, you know, one of the projects that we were looking at recently is Crew Coffee looking to build a facility there on one of the parcels. So I asked Kyle if he could come in and at least speak briefly, you know, without going into too much detail at this point. I know it's both a somewhat preliminary discussion, but also I know there's a timeliness issue from your perspective. So I didn't want things to drag too far before we at least started the wheels turning. So
Before he jumps in, I just want to make sure you guys understand, it's not usual that we get a chance to come see you, because there hasn't been as much activity as we would have liked over many years at Tech Meadows. But we've been talking to Kyle for quite some time. And over time, as he was looking for what he's going to share with you, it became clear that Tech Meadows could be a spot, but it took a lot of creative thinking because of the way that it has traditionally been seen. And I really want to commend Kyle for being willing to go down that road with us. He's been a remarkable, foresighted partner. It's a truly well-established business in our area, and I think it would be a wonderful addition to our community in the way that he's going to propose to.
First, thank you for allowing me to come in and share the information with you. Really excited about the project here. Just background, if you're not familiar with Crew Coffee, it's a family business. My wife, myself, and my brother-in-law, her brother, are the three principal owners of 87 North, which is the parent company for Crew Coffee. We started in 2016 in Saratoga, opened one retail store there, subsequently opened a retail store in Burlington, Vermont on Church Street. I always remember March of 2020 because we opened it and closed it within 10 days, and then reopened again. So, and then we've, within the last couple of years, Ryan, my brother-in-law, had started Spectre Coffee. We repurchased that as well. So we have 3 retail stores. And then we also have a warehouse manufacturing facility that we lease through Northern Rivers in Saratoga as well. So our dilemma was we're growing very quickly, which is great, but we've outgrown our current space on the manufacturing side. We do our own roasting. We also have a proprietary cold brew process. So the cold brew is one of the fastest growing segments in non-alcoholic beverages in the country, and we're right in the middle of it, and it's treating us very well, but we need to prepare for that growth. So when I approached Jim and John on the economic development side and said, you know, here's our need, what, is there anything you can do for us? And it's been a while. We've looked at a number of different things, and as we kept coming back to Tech Meadows, because we're specifically looking at manufacturing, we need to move our roasters. We have them in 2 different places. We got one at the Northern Rivers location. We've got one at our cafe in Saratoga. So we got 2 different roasting facilities. We've got our cold brew manufacturing in a much too small place. We also do e-commerce where we're shipping out orders for all our online, and then we also do wholesale. So there's about over 50 different wholesale customers that we supply both with the beans and with the cold brew. The timeliness comes, our lease that we have with Northern Rivers comes up January 31st, and we have an obligation 6 months in advance to give them written notice, which would be July 31st, of do we need to extend for a 3-year block of time. It's already too small. We definitely know we want out. That's been our urgency to try to find where we can go to consolidate all of this operation. And as we've continued to explore it, it seems like that would be a possibility not only for what we need immediately, but as we continue to grow and build onto the business, that this would allow us to do that.
So what he's proposing in front of you is, for those of you who don't remember how Tech Meadows is kind of configured, it's always been envisioned in 5 lots that kind of lay out with one that the pipe fitters is already in, like actually it was 6, and they're in the first, and then there's one next to it, and then there's several behind it that stretch back both alongside of where the old landfill was all the way towards to Sherman.
Right?
Yeah. So what he's anticipating is the lot that still has frontage on Luzerne Road, and for a lot of reasons, we went through a lot of discussion about this, but this is the ideal lot for him. You guys know that I actually looked at these for just at one time, and understanding the flow for any kind of canning or bottling operation and the kind of in and out that might be associated with that. It felt like deja vu for me to talk to him, but what he's proposing here is right along the same lines that we were talking to Ed about back in the day.
Yeah.
I think it's an ideal use of that lot. I think it would help catalyze many of the things that we've been hoping for. I think it could be a part of anything that we envision for Tech Meadows, even beyond its current construct. I think it's not traditional manufacturing, but it is the kind of manufacturing, just like Just was, that is most likely to be attractive.
Sure.
Yeah.
And is I know you're aware that we're in conversations with Queensberry to rezone the entire Tech Meadows, because one of the reasons that it hasn't been developed is because of the way it is currently zoned, but we wouldn't need to wait on that.
I was just going to say, this is industrial.
Fits with.
Completely compliant with the
Yeah.
existing zoning, and I think in no way at odds with some of the conversations
That we're
we've
having.
already started.
There's nothing that we're envisioning that would make this non-compliant.
Right.
I mean, all we're
Right.
looking at,
Everything
we're looking
is
to add
lesser.
possible uses, but not.
I thought I read something that you wanted to have like a walk-in setup too. Is that not right?
Not
That
with
people
this.
Not with this, okay.
No.
How many jobs do you think would be created? Do you have any sense?
We would relocate probably 3 jobs that are currently in Saratoga would come with it, and we'd probably add 2 more within a year.
And what about in and out inside of trucks, materials going in and out? And I know, obviously, close proximity to 18, is that important to you too?
Yeah, so the green coffee that we bring in comes out of New Jersey. It's on a regular tractor trailer, it's a 53-foot truck, pallets. We get maybe 2 deliveries per week. So we need truck access, we need the ability to get it in and out, but it's not high volume. It would just be a regular
It's not 8 a
delivery.
day, right?
Yeah, it's not a transportation type of hub. It's just going to be deliveries and then
Outbound is probably a combination of probably maybe eventually larger trucks, but probably smaller trucks in the short term. Kara, there are 2 things that I think might be relevant. You may not be able to answer here, but we want to make sure we understand. One is, since we have potentially a valid proposal here that's compliant, exactly what the process is to move forward with that. I don't believe it requires any engagement with Queensbury, but you know.
We only, Queensbury has to be involved in the architectural review. That we are,
Right.
that is part of our deal, but other than that.
But you could move forward, I believe, on land purchase without any kind of
Right.
assent from.
As long as it meets the zoning requirement.
Yeah, that was my interpretation,
Yep.
but I wanted you to confirm that. The
Yep.
other is that, I know when we were looking at potentially exploring just being there, and I'm sure it was true when Etain was looking at their setup, that they'd envisioned doing some kind of basic excavation to allow trucks to come in at floor level. So you essentially build a depressed driveway.
That's what Etain
And
had
I don't
designed.
believe there's any prohibitions or restrictions on moving earth to be able to do that there, but I wanted you to confirm that.
I'm not aware, but I
You mean the
can
glow green
confirm.
concept being that close to the landfill?
Well, I just want to make sure that there isn't any
Shouldn't be.
restrictions that come from either the state or from any previous uses that would complicate that. I didn't discover them when I was going through this, but I never got as far as he is in the process.
Okay. Okay.
So environmental
It's
concerns
so
is what you
funny.
want to know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Literally, Mayor Hall came to me yesterday. They were cleaning out Bud Taylor's home, and I got a 1966 master plan, city master plan. It was really cool, and the original,
that one on the list.
an original copy of the
Tech Meadows.
Tech Meadows, and so I'll be glad to, I'm sure you've got it, but I might as well give it to you, because it'll just, after I'm done looking at it, it'll just sit in somewhere and get lost in my office. So.
Will the paper start to crumble?
Yeah. It's it's the old blue mimeograph,
Yeah.
and it's starting to fade already, and it's just pretty cool. So.
Well, and to your point about any kind of site review,
Yeah.
we've gone through with him about what we know to be the basic constructs in terms of setbacks, height, and all the various distances and layouts. I think what he's proposing here is likely to be completely compliant with that.
It certainly, at first glance, certainly looks that way
Yeah.
based on what I know. but
Right.
I'm,
And when-
relatively new.
Because I know local took it to the, your setback farther than local, and local was fine, so you should be too.
When-
So is this
when
the
we
whole lot?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
He's
right.
proposing to buy the entire lot.
All right, so you could expand in the future.
I think it represents 2 possibilities. One for them to expand, and one if there were other uses that were ever determined for the site, for him to come back and see whether or not they could be a productive partner in that. But ultimately, I think the most important part about this is its catalytic action.
Let's
He
hope
needs
so.
to move quickly. So
Yep.
if we can't move quickly, we got to help him find a spot so that
Yep.
I want to make sure that we secure him for this area. If we could, I would love to secure him for the city, and I would love to actually spur what
The
I
development
believe
of
to
that,
be the
yeah.
on the verge development for Tech Meadows.
Have you brought in an architect yet to design the building?
Have not yet.
Okay.
At this point, somebody that I know who can do drafts kind of laid this out just so I had something that I could bring today.
Okay.
But I have not engaged anyone yet.
So as part of, I think Jane and I did the review for Local 773, and again, that's going to be us plus the town. Landscaping review was also included, so not just architectural review. So particularly because it's Luzerne Road and the traffic that goes down there, take a look at the landscaping that was done for 773 is the kind of thing that we're
Yep.
probably gonna wanna ask you to do too.
Yeah, no,
So I-
thank you, and we are, I've already started looking at that to make sure that it would fit.
Right,
you know,
with
we-
what they've, yes,
Exactly, yeah.
perfect, okay.
What do we at this point need to do?
I would go back and look at our records for 773 and what we did in terms of how
We
we
haven't had-
So
processed
the
that.
last time you actually reviewed was under the E-Team project.
Right, which
So
was
you-
coming in off of the other,
That
yeah.
was on
You-
veterans.
Yep.
Judy, Jane, and
John.
Supervisor Stroud were on that committee at that time.
Right.
Okay,
So procedurally, you will obviously need to, if you're moving forward to negotiate the terms, the public authorities law requires that you have an appraisal. I'm not sure, I think there is an appraisal.
We did an appraisal on those properties 2 years ago, John?
So, there's an appraisal, the law on that just says an independent appraisal must be in the record. So, if you're okay with relying on that appraisal, I'm not sure what the timing is, that's totally the board's call, because the law is unclear, it just says an independent appraisal must be received. Then, once you approve the contract, we'll get that together, and then we have to send the 90-day notice to the state. Then we would start the architectural review process. Once that's together, we'll reach out to the town and see who they're gonna appoint to this board, for this particular process.
I'd ask John to be part of it, because we're meeting.
Yeah.
We're meeting with John
I'm assuming
now,
he would
talking
want-
about
yeah.
this entire.
John Strong, I
Yes,
talked to him
and-
yesterday,
yeah,
he talked to
and-
me about it
Right,
yesterday.
Yeah.
so we're, we can ask him directly to be part of it, I
So
certainly.
there's a number
Those ways.
of parallel paths here, but the appraisal was done by a reputable firm, you know, using what I consider to be
Yeah.
I mean, we paid.
It also
we paid
aligns with our new
And it's
assessment.
post-COVID. So I think the real challenge is if you have a commercial appraisal that was before COVID, you could have some question about valuation. I don't think it's changed significantly in that period of time. And all our discussions have been about that appraised
That number.
price with
Yep.
the.
And we have that in-house. We have
Right.
copies of that in City Hall.
Yep.
So-
And it goes along with the citywide assessment.
Correct,
So
yes.
it's
Yes.
about, it's
It's
as
in
accurate
line
as you're
with-
gonna get.
Right, it's in
Right,
line
right.
with everything that's been done.
I don't want to speak for him, but I think what he is going to need is some kind of, something that will allow him to notice where he is by the timeline of the end of July. That does not mean this process has to go through its entire path, but we've got to think through how we would be able to give him enough surety to be able to make the commitment.
We can do a
Do you
contract.
wanna form the committee?
Well, that's the architectural review
Yeah,
committee.
that's
But
true.
we
How about-
just need a contract.
How about-
I don't
Yeah.
mean just. That's what we need, that's what we need now.
So-
Could that be
So
done by
that you
next
have
week?
Can we
security.
make a motion that we look favorably upon this and that we work,
And that we
together
will
to get a
accept
contract?
the appraisal number from the existing and post-COVID appraisal and instruct our council to draft a contract accordingly.
And
I think he's ready to go as fast as you are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there you go.
I-
His attorney's
On the
ready.
LDC, on our website, I would form a folder for this project,
Okay.
and I would put that appraisal in there.
Yeah.
And
So it's online.
is there any other, before we make a resolution to move in that way, is there any other questions? Anybody have any concerns? Not hearing any, do we have a motion to move forward with the drafting of the contract and grabbing the appraisal, putting it in the folder, Jack?
So move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you.
Yay.
Well done.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Welcome
Welcome
again.
aboard.
to Glens Falls.
Great, great.
Oh, definitely
Thank you
appreciate
kindly.
it so much. Thanks,
And I'll follow up with Ed, we spoke already, so I'll reach out to him.
Yeah, we're just looking at the
Okay.
format for an
Yep,
offer.
I'll reach out to him.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Not having any other business in front of us, I don't believe we have a need to go into executive session. If not, then do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, Denise's, yeah,
All in favor?
yeah. Aye.
We are adjourned. Next regular meeting's that Thursday, July 11th.
Perfect timing.
Just so everybody knows, in case you're wondering,
Here, we're all